everybody, welcome back to Sawdust and Cornbread. I'm Laura Lee. If this is your first time as a guest on the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bells. I try to put out new content every week. Speaking of putting out new content, I have a long video explaining why I've been out so long. I'll put a link to that right up here in the corner. My intentions were to jump right back in, and unfortunately, over the Thanksgiving holiday, you probably still can tell from my voice, I had the flu. And not only did I have the flu, one of our ducks has come down with a sinus infection. Completely unrelated. We're not passing stuff back and forth. But I thought it would be interesting today if I shared some of the footage with you of how I help to take care of the ducks when they have a sinus blockage or a sinus infection. Now, typically, the first sign of an infection in the duck, you see like a little swollen nodule here next to its bill. You might hear a little bit of rattling, like mucus in the air passageway, or it may just be kind of laying around drowsy, just not quite itself. Very first sign of that, you do want to get in touch with your vet, which is why I highly recommend, if you're going to have ducks, to find a vet that will see ducks. The nearest one to us is 1 hour drive. This time I have the flu and I can't take her to the vet, so I'm trying to get them to call in a refill on her antibiotic from last time and have that delivered in the house. Meanwhile, there are some practical topical things that I do to help take care of her, so I'm going to share those with you today. This time of year it's really cold outside, so I have to be careful about bringing the ducks inside. That's not something I typically do because it's better for their body temperature to acclimate naturally as the temperature falls. Otherwise, it can kind of mess them up. If you have a heater in the duck house and they go out into 30-degree weather, they can get frostbite on their little feet. So it's actually better with ducks to not have heat in the house so they can naturally acclimate. I gave her a nice warm bath, and I'll throw some footage of that in here. We had lots of fun. That swollen nodule is where there's a little sinus blockage or a sinus infection. And one thing that helps people and ducks is to have a nice warm bath. So I brought her inside, and I actually left her in her little crate for a little while just to kind of warm up a little bit from being outside before I put her in the bath. Bath water is not hot to the touch. I can bear it with my hands, but it is warmer than what she's used to. In the pond, you break the ice and they jump right in. They love ice water. I wanted to get the heat and the steam in her little nares, those little holes in her bill and in her nasal passages, to help kind of get things flowing just like it does for us. I'm all congested. If I breathed in steam, it kind of opens everything up a little bit. And also the heat from that warm water on that sinus, that little blockage, can help soften it up to help everything flow there better. So that was the thought behind that. Another thing I did is I added some natural apple cider vinegar. This is the kind that has the mother in it. That's kind of like the foggy, some people say it looks like a brain in a bottle, but that foggy, murky substance that's good bacteria and things that are in the apple cider vinegar. So I shook that up and put it in the bath water. If you see stuff floating in the water, yes, you might have pooped once, but most of what you're seeing is little pieces of that, the mother and the vinegar, that has antibacterial properties, slightly kind of like an antibiotic, sort of, but not, I can't say it's an antibiotic. Way back when I had my skincare lines, I did something called the Salad Face Challenge, and part of it was to tone in apple cider vinegar because it's really good at fighting bacteria and that type of thing. So I put some of that in the water, and as you can see, she put her head down in there. She was splashing all around. Funny thing that I've found with the ducks that is, if they're in the water, they're ducks, they love water, but if they're not splashing around and playing the way I want them to, like right now, I need Miss Swan to really swish those nares out and clear her sinuses out. If I take my hand and just started patting on the water and splashing a little bit, it's like they think my hand is a duck head splashing and they want to join in. They just can't resist it. So I did that a little bit, and she stuck her head in there, and sure enough, she just splashed it around and swished it around. So she's getting that apple cider vinegar. It's just a little bit. It's not real strong. It's not like it's going to burn her up in those nares. And she's also swallowing a little bit. So she's getting little micro doses of that good bacteria in her gut. So she had a really good time. And it's kind of funny. We played around, and then I noticed she was wanting to lay on my hand for whatever reason. I don't know if it just brought her comfort. She likes being close to me. She doesn't really like the process of me picking her up, but once I get her up, she's like, oh, this is nice. So anyhow, I put my hand down in the tub, and she climbed up on my hand and just did not want to get off of my arm. I was sitting there on the floor holding my arm stiff for the longest time with this little duck. And after a while, that little duck weight gets heavy, and I had to put it down. And when I went to pull it out of the water, she tried to jump up in my arms. I was like, no, we're not quite ready. Got to stay back in the water. And then a few minutes later, I realized what she was doing. She had literally bonded with my arm, thinking it was another duck. And if you have ducks, you know, male or female, they're going to try to mate or pretend like they're males for whatever reason. And she was trying to mate my arm, and she actually, if you don't know that ducks can bite, yeah, they can bite. She usually doesn't. When they mate, they'll pinch their little bill on the back of the female duck's neck, hold on to it, and then they can mate from that position. And for whatever reason, the females tend to do that every now and then, whether or not it's mating season. She thought my hand looked like it needed to be mated. So you can see here, she kind of pinched hold of my skin, and she's not trying to be mean there, but you can see she's got quite a grip on me, and I just kind of laughed it off. It didn't really hurt that bad. But that's what they do when they're mating. She held on, and she wanted my arm to stay in the water. Of course, once I figured out what she was doing, I'm like, okay, game's over. I'm taking my hand out of the bathtub. So I just let her float in there and enjoy the warm water and the steam for a while. And she started getting drowsy, and it's so funny. I started singing Rockabye Ducky to her. I'm sick. I have the flu. What else am I going to do? I'm just sitting there by the duck watching her eyes close. So I start singing this song. And she didn't even seem to mind my raspy, sick voice. She just started dozing away. Then we just spent some time on the couch. I dried her off, let her cool off a little bit from the nice warm bath before I let her outside. And that time of day, the sun had come out and it was a lot warmer, so she just went out and started playing with all of her buddies just like normal. And I could already tell that swelling on her cheek had gone down. So now I'm just waiting for the vet to send me an email and with the prescription, and then hopefully I can send that prescription to like Petco, PetSmart, Tractor Supply, one of those places that delivers, and they can deliver it to me. I don't have to go out being sick to get this medicine. So that's how I'm taking care of Ducky, and I'm taking care of me too, drinking fluids, resting, spending some good time with my ducks, and watching them through the window mostly. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I sure hope we can get back on schedule. I have some awesome videos coming up with washing lingerie in the sink rather than throwing those in the wash and having them all contorted and destroyed, and also some possibly excessive holiday cleaning tips. Thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you guys again. Be sure to like and subscribe. Take care, and God bless. Tap that